Hi, my name is Kamil. I'm 21 years old. I'm currently a student at SGH Warsaw School of Economics, studying economics. Um, yeah, I live in North Poland.
When you hear the term public value, what are the first three things that come to your mind?
So for the most part, the society as a whole, so something we strive to achieve together. The second thing would be probably all the public services like healthcare, education, public transportation, environment. And as the third thing, the sense of community, so that we are all together, we are talking with each other, sharing our ideas and hopes for the future. So for myself, I think the possibility of developing myself, achieving my goals would be important for my well-being. And of course, to achieve it, um, I have to have all the services and basic amenities like food, home, shelter, etc. But for me, most importantly, it would be achieving my goals.
And then what about your community's well-being?
Sustainable development so that everyone can have a fair share of our overall welfare, but at the same time, we are making sure that people who are growing up right now, they would have chance to use this welfare as well, and that we are basically working together in order to maintain ourselves. So there is no point if we are self-isolated and basically cannot communicate with each other because we cannot be happy without other people.
So then what would be needed for your country's well-being?
Well, most probably good economy so that everyone can be employed or at least have a good chance of being. Also, good public services, so education, healthcare, but at the same time, the sense of community also at this national and then also international level, so that we can be somehow proud of being where we are together and saying that we are doing something meaningful also for the future generations.
And how long do you think it would take to Poland to get there?
Looking at it now, taking into account that we were actually in communism times for such a long time, I believe it would take us another generation. So there was already one generation who, in 13 years, changed everything. Basically, we became a democratic society with market economy, but still there is a huge gap between us and more developed countries. So I think another generation, so like 40, 50 years probably. Global cooperation and also equality. So if we can manage to spread the economic development also to those less advantageous regions like South America, Africa, Caribbean, and so on, and at the same time assure that we are in a stable environment, kind of, so that we have global goals and we can together as a community strive to solve those challenges. So actually, like from the economic point of view, for me, it's a very interesting topic because on one hand, we have justice so that everyone should have the same in order for the preconditions to be just. But at the same time, all of us have existing preconditions. So some of us live in more privileged environments, some of us have better abilities in certain things. And then justice becomes a bit more difficult to achieve. So at one point, I think we should strive to have this just society so that everyone has a chance, but those chances should be fair as well. So if you are coming from privileged background, maybe you should be treated a bit differently than a person from more disadvantaged background. So things like affirmative action come in place here to help, so that everyone can have a chance, which is more important for justice, but at the same time, everyone can truly use this chance, which comes to those economic privileges and also social privileges. I think that climate change becoming a more and more burning issue is the worst scenario that can happen, because so far it influenced our daily lives a lot, but still we haven't seen huge effects on it. So for instance, climate refugees and wars for water and resources, they are not a thing yet, but probably if we don't do anything about it, it would be much worse than, for instance, nuclear threats. So I believe that climate catastrophe would be the worst scenario right now.
All right, and now the ideal scenario?
Creating more interconnected society at a global level. If we are in it together and we are all interconnected, there is no point of fighting with each other, because we lose more than we can gain by working together. So if we can mesh our world and try intertwine it more, then we would be somehow forced to cooperate. And I think that would also foster those good behaviors that we basically want to work together.
What do you think we can do to get there, to this ideal scenario?
So I think those regional initiatives, with European Union being the main of them, are great, because they are getting us together to fight our common challenges. But at the same time, we cannot close ourselves, confine ourselves in those smaller groups, and we have to cooperate with each other. So probably the best solution would be to somehow give more tools to United Nations in order for them to somehow build up those actions at a global level. Because for now, they have a lot of tools, but they cannot impose anything on any country. So if we give them more, then maybe we can truly see a change. It's crucial, basically, in my opinion, because, well, politicians right now can do anything they want, but they have to have in mind that they would live on this earth shorter than youth they are governing, for instance. So our role is to ensure that our future is protected as well. So current generations who are in politics, in economy, in academia, they can work for themselves, which is kind of egoistic, but also it's true. We have to be egoistic as well and work for ourselves. So advocate for our future, what we stand for, and also be a source of good ideas, because youth is always connected with innovation. So if we have good ideas, we should speak out and stand for them, so that something can change. Because, well, people who are working in governments, mostly they had their own ideas before. Now they are just using the old things. We can come up with something better and maybe change a bit.
And who or what do you see as being the main actors on the world scene?
At the moment, I think that global organizations, both in terms of governments, but also bigger businesses. So, for instance, huge corporations like Google, Amazon, they have an enormous influence. We still have governments, so a traditional role, but also global organizations understood other movements. So, for instance, Fridays for Future, that's a huge movement which can be also seen as a global organization, or less recently, Me Too movement. They are changing a lot, and through that we can see that there are a lot of actors on the world stage.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years, and what would you need to get there?
Well, hopefully in 5 years, I graduate my master's finally. and hopefully have at least internship done. And then I would try to get into politics, mainly in diplomacy, in order to put all of those skills I gathered for years into use, so languages, economic expertise, and so on. So hopefully in 5 years, I would have some sort of training in Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Poland or work in some international organization. But I'm not sure yet. We'll see about that. But yeah, it's good to have ambitions.
Yeah, and we have time.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, especially in my country, in Poland, I see my opinions clash with the current political discourse. So I have a lot of different views of things which are currently happening in here. And I believe I have lesser influence on them rather than, for instance, on those more global issues. So for instance, if I engage myself in an organization which strives for more interconnectivity within Europe, I believe that I am better heard than, for instance, engaging myself in some political organization here in my country. I don't really know what is the reason for that, but it happens somehow, which is illogical in complete sense. But yeah, so to a certain extent, I feel that I'm heard, especially I'm as if I'm in this privileged position that I'm a student. I have this fairly good background educationally, that I know about many initiatives. I know what I can do in democracy to be heard. But at the same time, I see that sometimes it doesn't work the way I would like it to work. I'm not an expert in Africa, to be honest. I don't know much about this continent, which is regretful. But I think that more or less they have the same problems as we. Of course, they are in less privileged position in terms of economy and the whole development. That's, well, basically the youngest continent. All the youngest countries in the world are basically in Africa. So historically, they are in more disadvantageous position, but still we have the same problems. So climate change is a huge problem in Africa, water shortages, healthcare systems. Of course, there is a difference of scale, so they are starting from lower level, but for them, those are the very same issues we have here in Europe. The main thing I would expect is for them to recognize that youth and the younger generations should have an impact and they should be heard, because I think it was always like that, this generational conflict, that they think we don't really have anything to say because those are not our times. We should wait for our time to change something. But the world is in flux and everything's changing so rapidly that if we won't act now, things they decide on now would have a huge impact for us. So I would just like them to recognize the fact that we have our voice as well, and it should be taken into account so that we can also influence what would happen in 20, 30 years, because then we would be in a peak of our lives. And at least I would like to have a nice life when I'm 40 or 50. So I would like to have influence on it.